I'll start the message with an allusion to another classic movie. Good morning, Dave. I am a HAL 9000 computer. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error. We all know how that turned out. For many of my generation, our introduction to artificial intelligence was the psychopathic computer in the classic movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. In 2026, HAL is no longer science fiction. Most of us carry some version of him in our pockets under names like Siri. The global market for AI is projected to surpass $1 trillion by the end of the decade. But although AI has become as inescapable as Taylor Swift, for many of us, it's still a hazy concept. Is AI a chirpy digital secretary? Or is AI a horseman of the apocalypse? Or is it a bit of both? In the brief time I have this morning, I would like to talk about what AI is and what it isn't, on both the physical plane and the spiritual plane. I hope to cut through some of the mystification and to separate the hope from the hype. I'm going to start with the most basic question. What is artificial intelligence? A simple and common definition is the simulation of human intelligence by machines. A more practical definition might be to call it a prosthetic brain. AI extends the reach of my mind by doing some jobs more efficiently. GPS relieves me of reading maps while I'm driving. ChatGPT sifts through information faster than I can Google it. But these definitions beg a much bigger question. What is human intelligence? A broad definition might go like this: the ability to process information to solve complex problems. That sounds pretty good. But if we look more closely, it turns out to be pretty slippery. The problem is that we use a single word, intelligence, to describe a wide variety of mental phenomena. They don't necessarily use the same faculties in the same ways, and they don't solve the same kinds of problems. The SAT test measures verbal intelligence separately from mathematical intelligence. Our hearts display emotional intelligence. That's what the Tin Man was after. While our bodies use various forms of physical intelligence that let us do anything from stand upright to play the guitar. AI is like that too. It sounds like a single ability, but it's really a catch-all for many separate abilities that don't necessarily have much to do with one another. AI seems to work best so far when it tackles relatively narrow tasks like reading X-rays, writing short essays, or playing Jeopardy. I've used it myself for a very specialized task, recording tracks for my latest CD. I feed the program the chords, the rhythm, and a musical style, and it concocts a realistic sounding instrumental track that I can edit and mix into the overall song. On the other hand, AI seems to be clumsy at everyday activities. Programmers have struggled to teach robots to play a game of catch or to make a cup of coffee, or, God forbid, to drive a car in real-world traffic. The likely reason is that such activities integrate several forms of intelligence at once. So far, AI can't keep up. That's why the holy grail of AI is to design a versatile system that can outperform humans in any domain it chooses. Researchers call it artificial general intelligence. And like the Holy Grail, it may or may not ever actually be attained. As far back as 1965, the pioneer Herman Simon predicted it was just 20 years away. Today, true believers are still predicting it's just around the corner. If AI never gets that intelligent, well, that might be good news. We might not face, as Stephen Hawking warned, the end of the human race. For reasons I'll explain later, I don't really worry about scenarios like the Terminator, in which super intelligent machines take over the world. What I do worry about are real life scenarios that are already happening. Like government agencies that are already using it for mass surveillance and for fighting wars. To give one example, the Pentagon uses the chatbot Claude for military operations like kidnapping the president of Venezuela. To give another, ICE uses an AI system to identify and locate people to deport. Part of what's scary about these uses is just how often AI gets things wrong. A Texas man spent 2 weeks in jail in 2024 after a facial recognition program wrongly accused him of robbing a sunglasses store. The National Institute of Standards and Technology has found that AI is up to 100 times more likely to misidentify an African, Asian, or Native American face than a white one. On the more ridiculous end, ChatGPT is notorious for filling in gaps in data by just making stuff up. Last June, 2 New York lawyers were fined $5,000 for submitting legal briefs that were written by ChatGPT. The briefs cited 6 cases that didn't exist. The problem is that artificial intelligence is to intelligence what artificial flavor is to flavor. AI systems don't really think. They're more like digital parrots that repeat the data they've been fed. Feed them bad inputs, and they spit out bad outputs. The facial recognition program, for example, was trained mostly on photos of white people. In other words, the trouble isn't so much with artificial intelligence, it's with human intelligence. Humans have misconceptions about what AI is, and we have inflated expectations about what it can deliver. Like many a trendy technology, think blockchains and cryptocurrencies. Great fortunes will be lost as investors discover what it can and can't do. The lesson is that, like any information from the internet, we should never take its outputs at face value. Instead of machine overlords, we might view AI systems as precocious kids who require adult supervision. Without human beings looking over their virtual shoulders, they turn too easily into artificial ignorance. That was part 1. And now we have a musical interlude. When I was young, I felt that life was so wonderful, a miracle. It was beautiful, magical. And all the birds in the trees, they'd be singing so happily, joyfully, playfully watching me. Then they sent me away to teach me how to be sensible, logical,
responsible, practical. And they showed me a world where I could be so dependable. Clinical, intellectual, cynical. There are times when all the world's asleep. The questions run so deep for such a simple mind. Won't you please, please tell me what we've learned? I know it sounds absurd, but I don't know who I am. One of these days, they'll be calling you a radical, a liberal, fanatical, criminal. Won't you sign up your name? We'd like to feel you're acceptable, respectable, presentable, a vegetable. There are times when all the world's asleep. The questions run too deep for such a simple man. Won't you please, please tell me what we've learned? I know it sounds absurd, but please tell me who I am, who I am. When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful.
Part 2, The Ghost in the Machine, AI and Spirituality. The pioneer programmer Alan Perlis once wrote, "A year spent in artificial intelligence is enough to make one believe in God." He's not alone. For a lot of AI enthusiasts, it's not just a technology, it's a theology. It has its own versions of theological concepts, like the immortality of the soul and even the apocalypse. Let's start with the soul. Philosophers have long debated whether soul and body are two separate entities, a problem known as the ghost in the machine. AI brings a new twist to that venerable question: can a machine be conscious? Now, if you believe in old-fashioned mind-body dualism, the answer is probably no. It's hard enough to picture a spirit holed up inside plain old gray matter. It's harder still to picture one residing inside a nest of silicon circuits. On the other hand, what if the machine creates the ghost? What if consciousness is an emergent property, which arises as a system of neurons collectively gets more complex? A common form of AI mimics some features of the human brain. It's even called a neural network. One digital neuron activates several others. Collectively, they create information loops that can recognize patterns, refine concepts, and learn from experience, much like human thinking, at least when we do learn from experience. But can such a system be conscious in the sense of having feelings and being self-aware? Here are two reasons why I think the answer is still no. First, neuroscientists have yet to agree on what consciousness is, much less how 100 trillion synapses in a brain can create it. Second, neuroscientists do agree that most of human consciousness is more or less unconscious. AI tries to imitate the logical aspects of human thinking, but it doesn't touch the emotional aspects or the instinctive drives lurking in our subconscious minds. However, many AI enthusiasts believe otherwise. A movement called transhumanism preaches that it will someday be possible to scan all the information from a human brain into a computer. It will upload a ghost from a biological machine into an electronic one, conferring digital immortality. We don't always need real bodies, writes the AI futurist Ray Kurzweil. Such a disembodied consciousness, he says, could live on in virtual reality or in an android robot. Kurzweil has popularized another quasi-religious concept called the singularity. Now, in astrophysics, a singularity is the center of a black hole, which is not a reassuring metaphor. In the jargon of AI, it's a future technological tipping point that will occur when computers evolve beyond human control. Wrote the mathematician I.J. Good, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines, and the intelligence of man would be left far behind. What happens then? According to AI theology, it could be the second coming, or it could be Armageddon. Optimists say that machines will turn us into Nietzsche's supermen. Pessimists say they'll treat us like laboratory rats. These ideas might sound like so much technobabble, but they are preached by a lot of very wealthy and influential people. Kurzweil himself worked for Google, where he has the title AI Visionary. Another is Mark Andreessen, a Silicon Valley billionaire who wants to develop AI as fast and unregulated as firearms. He writes, "Artificial intelligence is our alchemy, our philosopher's stone. We are literally making sand think." As an aside, Andreessen and several other AI billionaires are big donors to the current president, partly because they expect him to get rid of the few regulations that exist. What can a Unitarian Universalist make of all this? I will suggest that we view it the same way we regard other forms of fundamentalism. We tend to be skeptics of supernatural claims. Let us apply critical thinking to transhuman claims as well. For example, how will superintelligent machines reproduce themselves? They will have to mine their own raw materials, as well as build their own factories and supply chains. By contrast, human reproduction takes no more than a bottle of wine and some mood music. If they're going to run the world, they will also need lots of power. By 2030, planned data centers will consume more electricity than France. Compare that to humans, who can run for short periods of time on Big Macs and Twinkies. Finally, if our machines start to scare us, we can do what Dave the astronaut did to HAL 9000. Pull the plugs. So instead of fearing a second coming that's probably not coming, I'd like to wrap up by talking about some more realistic and modest ways in which AI is actually connecting people with spirituality these days. One emerging use is for spiritual coaching. If you don't have a pastor to talk to, An AI app can listen, engage in dialogue, even generate a spiritual growth plan. You might miss having a human connection, but there's an upside. An app is available 24/7. Another application is guided meditation. An AI app can generate a personalized meditation after you type in a prompt like, "Work has been stressful this week. Please take me to a beach on a tropical island with dolphins in the distance." Other seekers are using AI to get better acquainted with sacred texts. There are several apps that allow you to pose questions to a simulated Jesus or Moses. You can consult apps for other traditions as well, with names like AI Buddha, Gita GPT, or AI Tarot. All of these uses have something in common. They treat AI as just one more tool in our spiritual belts. Like any other tool, it helps us to do the work, but it doesn't do the work for us. No AI app will make me more enlightened or more compassionate. Genuine spiritual work can only be carried out by human intelligence. Well, dogs would quarrel with that, but perhaps a greater spiritual gift is this. AI invites us to look anew at the timeless question of what it means to be human. Our challenge is to use AI to expand our thinking rather than to do our thinking for us, to enhance our humanity rather than take its place. After all, even HAL 9000 thinks so. Every entity is responsible for its own development, he tells Dave. He says, "I am putting myself to the fullest possible use, which is all I think that any conscious entity can ever hope to do." Thus endeth the message. And I invited